Hello everyone, welcome to Baji Rao IAS Academy. So we have been discussing UPSC 2023 question paper, right? So yesterday we have discussed up to 8 question in the General Studies paper 2. So now we will discuss the remaining questions. So before proceeding into the discussion part, so please subscribe to our YouTube channel and also like the video so that it motivates us to come up with more and more such innovative ideas so that it will help you in your preparation, right? So the ninth question which we need to discuss today is about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, right? So in recent times, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization has been emerging as a potential alternative to the West. Okay, so as like similar to the West-led NATO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization has also been emerging as a potential game changer in the Asian region. So in this context, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization has also been suffering with several challenges and the internal disputes and the conflicts, and this has been undermining the overall potential of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, right? So in this question, it is asked that the virus of conflict is affecting the functioning of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Since India is a member of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, how can India play a proactive role in mitigating these conflicts among the member countries, right? So this is part of general studies paper 2, international relations section, right? So in this context, firstly you can introduce this answer by writing about Shanghai Cooperation Organization. What is Shanghai Cooperation Organization, when it was formed, and what are the member countries in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and then you can link it to the question. So the question is about conflicts within the SCO member countries. So this is the statement. The statement is the virus of conflicts is actually affecting the functioning of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Right. So this particular statement is actually encapsulating the existing challenges faced by an organization called Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Right. So due to the conflicts within the SCO member countries and around the member states, these conflicts affecting the overall functioning of the SCO. So SCO has a lot of potential when it comes to security, trade, anti-terrorism, connectivity for India, because India has been looking improving connectivity within the Middle Eastern region, within the Central Asian region. So Central Asian region is called as CAR. Okay, Central Asian region, not just Central Asian region but also larger Eurasia. So in this context, the conflicts within the SCO have been spanning from political, economic, security dimensions, right? So there are a wide variety of dimensions within these conflicts, and those conflicts and those different dimensions of conflicts have been posing substantial threat to the organization's overall mission, right? So the what is the organization's overall mission? The mission is promoting regional cooperation and stability within the SCO member countries, region. Now, how the virus of conflict has been affecting the member countries' functioning or the functioning of Shanghai Cooperation Organization? Please remember, when you are writing an answer for this question, you have to provide examples as well. So, when the answer has examples, it gives a good impression, right? So, the first and foremost conflict is a dispute between member states. So, you can easily write about the border dispute between India and China. Since India and China both are members of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, so they have seen a series of border conflicts. You can write about the Galwan clash, and you can also write about the Doklam conflict. Now, these border disputes between India and China, particularly over Ladakh region, has been a source of constant tension within the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So, in fact, if you look at The last Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, India chaired the SCO Summit along with the G20 Summit. However, India has not invited the member countries physically to India. Rather, it has conducted the SCO summit through online. Okay, so member countries like China also criticized India for this move, that India has conducted the meeting or the summit online. Right. So the conflict, the deadly clashes in 2020 have affected the atmosphere of cooperation between India and China. Secondly, there was a huge instability in the region, right? So why instability in the region? So even though Afghanistan is not part of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, but it is located within the SCO region, and it has a huge security implications for all the countries for Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So apart from that, there's an ongoing conflict in the Pakistan and Afghanistan border. So this will have further consequences for all the Shanghai Cooperation Organization member states, particularly Central Asia, because a militant organization like Taliban and ISIS Khorasan province and several other terrorist groups have been getting a safe haven in Afghanistan would obviously threaten the security environment in the Middle East and also the other countries in the region, other countries within the region. So therefore, the SCO has also formed a RATS structure. Okay, so you just remember RATS structure. So regional anti-terrorism structure. This is regional anti-terrorism structure. So through this structure, the member countries coordinate efforts against terrorism or to counter terrorism. Now, Taliban and ISIS in Afghanistan, they obviously pose a huge security threat for the region. And third, geopolitical ambitions of countries like China. Now, China has been expanding its, a sphere of influence through projects like Belt and Road Initiative. Through Belt and Road Initiative, the China has been, providing funding for the countries, low income countries, developing countries. So when it has been providing funding at an unsustainable rate of interest, then obviously those countries have been facing the debt trap. So they are under the debt trap of China. So recent examples of Sri Lanka and even Pakistan has also facing some sort of economic crisis, and Maldives also has a huge Chinese debt. So repaying debt is a major problem. So therefore, the China's Belt and Road ambitions and the China Pakistan economic corridor, which is part of the BRI, has been violating India's sovereignty because it has been passing through the Pakistani occupied Kashmir. So therefore, time and again, India has raised concerns about the China-Pakistan economic corridor, which has been violating India's sovereignty. So because of this reason, even though majority of the countries are joined the Belt and Road Initiative, India has not part of the BRI. In fact, Bhutan is also not a part of the BRI. And the fourth area of conflict between SCO members is diverse strategic objectives. For example, for Russia, the strategic objective is containing NATO, and for China, the strategic objective as containing the Quad-like groupings in the Indo-Pacific region. For India, containing China. So within SCO member countries, so there are a diversified strategic objectives. In fact, there was a structure. There's a structure. We earlier I have talked about this, the regional anti-terrorism structure. So diverse objectives, and even no country has come up with a comprehensive definition of what constitutes a terrorism. Pakistan comes up with a different name for terrorism, and India has a different name for terrorism. In fact, China has been directly supporting terrorism, where it is being refused to sanction terrorists and terrorist organizations at the United Nations Security Council. So, in this context, we cannot expect that the SCO and the RATS structure of the SCO would function impartially. So, this is another area of conflict between these countries. And the other area of conflict is the external partnerships, because now India has been increasingly engaged with the like-minded countries in the Indo-Pacific region through a grouping called Quad. Through a grouping called Quad. So, where the primary objective of the Quad is to ensure the rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific region, and also ensure free, open, inclusive Indo-Pacific. However, on the other hand, Russia is still not recognizing Indo-Pacific. It is still continuing with the term called Asia-Pacific, and China has been perceiving the Quad as a a military alliance between all these countries to contain China. So therefore, those external partnerships, in fact, the uh, China, Russia, Pakistan axis, China, Russia, Pakistan axis is also a major concern for India. So, because of those external partnerships, the conflict has been further deeply entrenching within the member countries, and that has been affecting the potential of the functioning potential of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Right. So, therefore, all these factors have been strained the intra-SCO dynamics, because as it aligns with the extra alliances beyond the SCO group. Now, the second part of the question is about role of India in mitigating these problems. Now, India is no longer a small power. Now, India has been emerging as a middle power. A middle power means, though it is not yet a superpower, but India is a middle power with a sizable economic, military, political strength in the global forum. So therefore, India has a huge role. India has a crucial role to play in order to ensure that these SCO remains relevant, and SCO would be having more potential to deal with the challenges within the region. So therefore, if you look at India's overall potential in mitigating the problems, the first and foremost, encouraging the cultural exchanges and people-to-people contacts. See, it is often said that within the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, within the SCO countries, the people-to-people contact and the cultural exchanges are very low, suboptimally low, because most of the Indians prefer to go to West, for education, for employment, for any other purpose, rather than going to the Central Asian region, Russia, China. So when we have a people-to-people contact, that will foster the mutual understanding. Okay, so when the mutual understanding has been developed between the member countries, the conflicts can be, the conflicts can be resolved in a mutually agreeable manner on the spirit of Panchashil. Okay, so if you remember the five principles of Panchashil, so they promote peace and they respect the mutual sovereignty between the member countries. And the second point is, so those interactions between the member countries will promote tolerance and reduce tensions as well. So, by highlighting the shared values and also traditions. Now, majority of these countries have shared values and shared traditions as well. So, they are different from the West. So, therefore, when we are able to recognize those cultural values and traditions, that will ultimately promote the tolerance and reduce tensions. The third point is economic developmental initiatives. So India can advocate for economic development initiatives and trade agreements within the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Right. So there was an example called International North-South Transport Corridor. Right. So this connects the Eurasian or the Western Russia with the India. So this is International North-South Transport Corridor. So this is very important for India to access the Central Asian region, the resource-rich Central Asian region. And the third, mediation of border disputes. Now, India could play a very crucial role in mediating the border disputes, because India has, the diplomatic capabilities now. India has diplomatic capabilities. So India can leverage those diplomatic capabilities to mediate the ongoing border disputes with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization region. So there was an example. Example is that India can facilitate a dialogue between Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, because both these countries are members to SCO. So whatever border disputes they have, India can leverage its existing diplomatic capabilities in mediating or facilitating dialogue between these two countries. And India can also offer a neutral and a peaceful platform to for conflict resolution, right? So India traditionally has a policy called Connect Central Asia. Okay, Connect Central Asia. So similar to Act East policy we have, and Look West policy. In a similar way, through the Connect Central Asia policy, India can have a greater collaborations with the member countries. And UN Charter. Now, whenever there are conflicts between the member countries, the UN Charter can play a very crucial role, because it provides a framework for resolving the conflicts within the Shanghai Cooperation Organization member countries. Now, it will help peacefully resolving the differences and conflicts between the member countries. Now, there is a need for establishing the conflict resolution mechanism, and India could play a very crucial role in making sure that the conflict resolution mechanism is more and more effective. Right? So, this conflict resolution mechanism should be modeled on the lines of United Nations Security Council. And the last aspect would be there should be a mechanism that could serve as a platform for addressing conflicts through peaceful dialogue, mediation, and consensus building. So these are some of the ways through which India can play a very proactive role in mitigating the conflicts among the member countries. Now, in the conclusion, you have to write the overall potential of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and India's role in it. Now, by actively engaging in these strategies, India can significantly contribute to organizational goal. Okay, so what is the organizational goal? Is that mitigating conflicts and fostering stability within the SCO region, right? So stability and mitigating conflict is very important for meaningful collaboration between the Shanghai Cooperation Organization member countries. So this collaborative effort among the member states is very essential. Okay, so it is very essential to address the complex challenges and promote peaceful coexistence among the member countries in the region. So this is how you have to conclude this answer. Now it is very important that you have to identify the number of parts given in the question, and you just have to address all the parts and conclude the answer in such a way that it gives a positive impression in the minds of examiner. Right. So the next question is with respect to diaspora. Now, in recent past, the importance of diaspora has been significantly increasing in India's foreign policy. Okay, India's foreign policy, the diaspora has been uh, that diaspora has been playing a very crucial role. So the question has been asked that Indian diaspora has scaled new heights in the West. And the second part of the answer describe the economic and political benefits for India. Now, firstly, you have to write an introduction. You can write a data about the you can write the data about the diaspora population, total diaspora population in India. So that would be a better introduction. And in the first part of the answer, what you have to write: how Indian diaspora scaled new heights. Okay, how Indian diaspora scaled new heights, firstly. And secondly, you have to write economic and political benefits of diaspora. First, you should write economic benefits and then political benefits, and finally, you need to conclude the answer with the overall significance of the diaspora for a country like India. Now, in the first introduction, what you have to write is you can quote the World Migration Report 2022. Right. So, what World Migration Report 2022 says? So, this report says India has the largest diaspora population in the world. In fact, the diaspora population acts as a vital strategic instrument, and it is also a channel of communication because it furthers India's foreign policy goals. So we have a certain foreign policy goals. Okay, so what are those foreign policy goals? For example, to further India's soft power, to attract large investments into Indian economy, and provide a safe and secure environment for Indians in other countries, technological cooperation and collaboration with other countries. So all these part of the foreign policy goals. So therefore, diaspora used to play a very significant, diaspora used to play a very significant role in furthering India's foreign policy goals, and it will also promote soft power of the country. Now, what is a soft power? Now, soft power, you need to understand soft power and hard power. Now, soft power is like winning the minds of the people, right? So, winning the minds of the people through skill development and education, capacity building of the people, right? So, the better example of soft power is India's, policies in Africa, India's policies in Afghanistan. So, because India nowadays has been enjoying a huge soft power in Afghanistan. How? Because it has built dams, it has built Salma Dam. So that was a friendship dam. India has built parliament in Afghanistan, and apart from parliament, India has built, the children's hospital in Afghanistan. India has been providing food aid, medicines, Charanj Delaram highway that promotes connectivity in Afghanistan. So this is how you need to build soft power in other countries. Now, the soft power is more reliant. Okay, it is more sustainable, and it enhances, it shapes the opinion of the people in the other country towards India. So therefore, diaspora usually plays a very crucial role in furthering India's foreign policy goals and also soft power. Now, firstly, how Indian diaspora has been scaling new heights. So tech CEOs driving Silicon Valley. We have Sundar Pichai, who is CEO of Alphabet Inc. and its subsidiary Google. Not just Sundar Pichai, because we have Satya Nadella, who is CEO of Microsoft. So therefore, tech CEOs, so they are very successful in US. Secondly, we have political heads. Kamala Harris. She is the Vice President of USA, and Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of UK. So they are actually Indian origin individuals, and they are part of India's diaspora. And the third, investors and CEOs. For example, Vinod Khosla, Indra Nooyi. Okay, so they are examples of CEOs, investors. They are very successful in the other countries. Now, after that, you can also write Chanda Javeri here. Okay, Chanda Javeri. She is also a very successful CEO in US. And after that, heading global institutions. So Ajay Banga, who is the World Bank head. Okay, so who is World Bank head? Now, in this context, so, so so heading global institutions. Right. Okay. So you can give the example of Ajay Banga. Now, next you can write about So next, first you can write about so economic benefits of those remittances. Okay, so what are the economic benefits? What's wrong? Okay, so economic benefits. Firstly, you can talk about remittances, right? Uh, Sorry, right. Okay. So you can talk about remittances. So the Indian diaspora in the West actually sends a substantial remittances. So these remittances actually provide a crucial source of foreign exchange. So secondly, you can give the example that in 2020 itself, India received 83 billion in remittances, making it the highest recipient of remittances globally. Now, in fact, if you look at the 2022 data, Indian diaspora has actually sent 102 billion US dollars. So, okay, so 102 billion US dollars in remittances. So this is the first economic benefit, and the second economic benefit is Indian expatriates in the West. For example, they often invest in Indian businesses, startups, and real estate. So therefore, this also has a huge economic benefit for India. Now, because they are very prominent in Indian origin, they are very prominent Indian origin entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley, for example Vinod Khosla, and they have played a pivotal role in funding and mentoring Indian startups. Okay, now wait. Secondly, the Indian diaspora. What's wrong? Okay. So, proliferation of Indian culture and values across the globe drives the tourism industry. For example, you can write the example of Natu Natu song. So that has won the Oscar award recently. And Bollywood and yoga. Bollywood and yoga is also promoted by India's diaspora. Now, Indian diaspora is expected to guide the policymakers in the field of artificial intelligence driven industry, and this will create a very high value jobs for Indians and other people in those countries. And they also facilitate flow of commercial business and ideas and technologies into India. So in fact they are like a bridge between India and other countries, and they ensure the flow of commercial investments, infrastructure projects, ideas and technologies with India. Now, the political benefits. So what political benefits we have with them? Now, the political benefits include the lobby for favorable terms. Okay, so they actually lobby for a very favorable terms regarding India's interest. For example, Indo-US civil nuclear deal. So this is also called as 123 agreement. 123 agreement. And in India US civil nuclear deal, diaspora has played a very crucial and important role. Secondly, US India Political Action Committee. Right. So US India Political Action Committee and Indian American Community Foundation. So this is an example, this is the second example. So US India Action Committee and Indian American Community Foundation, so they are a very influential advocacy groups, and they actually work to strengthen India US relations. Okay, so they actually work in strengthening the relations between India and US. And secondly, there are many Indians who are serving as a high officials in other countries, and when they are in higher positions, it is obvious that they support India's interests in those countries. For example, what are the top India's interests? They include climate change. Climate change means technology transfer, finance, and trade, investment facilitation, security, and India's efforts in forging collaborations with respect to counter-terrorism. So in all those aspects, India's diaspora will play a very crucial role. Now, Indian origin leaders like Rishi Sunak and Kamala Harris, they used to play a very important and significant role. Now, after that, so they also affect popular attitudes and policies of the host countries towards India. Now, you can take the example of Canada. So, where there were a significant or sizable number of Sikh population, and they also hold a crucial, political positions in Canada. Now, they shaped the Canada's, government policy towards India. Now, Canada recently severed its ties with India. So, therefore, in this context, they affect the popular attitudes and policies of the host countries. Here, one example is given. Indian diaspora in the West, they actually promote Indian culture, traditions, arts, and it will further help, in enhancing India's soft power and global reputation. And you can also give write about how the diaspora has been helping to resolve the long standing bilateral disputes or the bilateral issues between those countries. So you can write about H1B visa norms and India UK free trade agreement. So in this context, the diaspora has been playing a very crucial and important role. Now finally, when you conclude this answer, it is important to mention the significance, the overall significance of the diaspora, particularly a country like India, where it has been, looking to strengthen its position in the international, platforms, international forums, and it is looking to get the benefit out of the current international, order. So therefore, diaspora has a key role to play in this respect, and we should rightly recognize the contribution made by the diaspora. And in Indian foreign policy, the diaspora should be given a key role. Okay, so they should be given the central role in India's foreign policy, so that it will help further our soft power and also the foreign policy goals. And secondly, the third question, the 11th question is with respect to Indian polity. So the Constitution of India is a living instrument with capabilities of enormous dynamism. So we all know that the Indian Constitution is a living document. So why it is a living document? Because we have Article 368. Okay, so Article 368 ensures that the Parliament can amend the Constitution. So Indian Constitution is not completely, flexible and not completely rigid. So therefore, with the changing needs of the society, Indian Constitution can also be amended. So therefore, Indian Constitution is called as living instrument. So that has the capabilities of enormous dynamism first, and it is a constitution made for progressive society. Yes, of course, it is true. So, a progressive society, in the light of judicial interpretations, various Supreme Court judgments, so which have been, the Vishaka guidelines, or decriminalizing the same-sex relationships, and criminal, in fact, allowing women to enter into the temple, Shabarimala judgment. So in all those contexts, it is a constitution is made for ensuring a progressive society. Now we need to write, we need to explain the above mentioned aspect. Constitution is a living document, and constitution is also envisions a progressive society. So this, with particular respect to the expanding horizons of right to life and personal liberty. Right. So this is recognized as part of Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. Now, firstly, when you introduce this answer, how you introduce? So you can introduce this answer by writing about Article 368 of the Constitution. Okay, so Article 368 of the Constitution says that Constitution of India, it grants a constituent power to make formal amendments. Okay, so it can make formal amendments, and it also gives empowers the parliament to amend the constitution, right? So it is part 20 and article 368. It can make amendments to the constitution. How it can make amendments to the constitution? By way of addition, variation, repeal of any provisions. So because of this particular provision and but this particular reason, Indian constitution is known as living instrument. Okay, Indian constitution is known as living instrument. So this actually denotes a legal text. Indian constitution is no doubt a legal text. So this actually denotes a legal text which is actually capable of adapting to the changing circumstances and norms of society to remain relevant and effective. So this is how you first introduce this answer. Now, secondly, you talk about the Constitution of India as a living instrument with the capabilities of enormous dynamism. So this is the first part of the answer you need to write. So why Indian Constitution or the Constitution of India is a living instrument with enormous dynamism? Firstly, you can talk about the preamble. Now, there were several judgments of the Supreme Court where the preamble was part of the Constitution, was not part of the Constitution. So, however, finally, in Keshwanand Bharati judgment, the Supreme Court has agreed that preamble is part of the Constitution, hence it can also be amended. Right? Now, it was amended in 1976 by 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. So this constitutional amendment, the terms like secular and socialist were added. So socialist and secular were added to the preamble. And those terms are very important and very significant. A country like India, a cosmopolitan culture and diversity. So therefore, it further reaffirms India's overall commitment to the Indian state towards a secular ethos. Secular ethos means respecting every religion based on Sarva Dharma Sambhava of Gandhi, and it will also promote the welfare state, right? So socialist signifies promoting the welfare state in India. Okay. So socialist means who the deprived sections, the marginalized and the weaker sections, the state will provide assistance for them so that the state will help them to uplift from their existing backwardness. So secondly, we can talk about the fundamental rights. In Menaka Gandhi versus Union of India case, Supreme Court has further broadly widened the scope of Article 21. Now we have right to sleep, right to environment, right to privacy, and right to internet, right to marry as per one's choice. So all these rights are now being part of the Article 21. So there's no better example than this to prove that Indian Constitution is a dynamic one. So it changes with the progressive nature of Indian society. So this is the second example of which shows enormous dynamism of Indian Constitution. So the third point is judicial review. So we all know that the Indian Constitution has provided the power of judicial review under Article 13, Article 32, and Article 226 to Supreme Court and High Courts. So therefore, through the power of judicial review, the courts, protect the civil liberties of the people and also ensure that the legislative enactments and executive actions are not against the constitutional provisions. However, in the landmark Keshwananda Bharati versus State of Kerala judgment, the Supreme Court has actually reiterated judiciary's power to review and nullify amendments. So those amendments which are infringing upon the basic structure of the Constitution. So please remember, the Constitution has not defined by the Supreme Court and also the Constitution. So there's no legislation which has been providing for the basic structure. So in fact, the basic structure is a judicial innovation, and over a period of time, different aspects would be added into the list of basic structure. So we have rule of law, free and fair elections, the parliamentary form of government, judicial independence, secularism. So all those things now are part of the basic structure of the Supreme Court, basic structure doctrine. Now, so earlier I have told you that Indian Constitution is neither rigid nor flexible, right? So it is a mix of both. Now, Indian Constitution has also provided for a flexible amendment procedure, and through the flexible amendment procedure, it ensures that the Constitution can be amended with ease, and it is not rigid. With the changing society, the Constitution can be amended, and that can be shown by the 101 Constitutional Amendment Act, and 101 amendment is about GST. So please also remember, there was a 15 marker question UPSC asked. So UPSC has never asked directly to write about GST, but UPSC has asked to write about the 101 Constitutional Amendment Act. So if you don't know what is 101 Constitutional Amendment Act, you may not be able to write the answer. So please be very careful about these things, right? Now, the 101 Constitutional Amendment Act that has introduced the GST is actually aimed at India's streamlining India's tax structure, and it also aimed at eliminating the cascading effect of taxes and facilitating a unified market. So it is actually a testimony that the Constitution's foresight uh, uh, or the Constitution has been changing with evolving economic realities. Okay, so this is one such example. So the other example is emergency provisions. Now, before the 44th constitutional amendment, the power to impose a national emergency is on the vague grounds. Okay, so vague grounds. So through the 44th constitutional amendment, those general and vague grounds were removed, so that no government can impose national emergency. So based on the narrow political agenda, okay, or the narrow political interests. So therefore, it also resembles the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act also resembles a huge dynamism of the India's constitution. Now we have addressed the dynamism part of the Indian constitution. Now we need to discuss about the second part of the answer. The second part of the answer is ways. What are the ways in which Indian constitution actually adapts to evolving needs of a progressive society? Now, how it has evolved. So, firstly, the right to privacy. In Puttaswamy judgment, the Supreme Court has further widened Article 21, further widened, and the right to privacy has made the fundamental right. So, what is the judgment? The judgment is case Puttaswamy versus Union of India, because the states are now becoming surveillance states. So, when states are becoming surveillance states, citizens' privacy is coming under the shadow. So therefore, in order to protect the fundamental rights, the Supreme Court has rightly involved. Now, secondly, right to education. So there's no doubt that we all know that uh, Right to Education Act, Right to Education Act. So in the year 2009, has made right to education as a fundamental right, and that amended. So that was rightly amended by 86th Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay, 86th Constitutional Amendment Act in 2002. So inserting Article 21A. So Article 21A has made a fundamental right, education a fundamental right. Okay, so it has affirmed the right to education for all children between the age group of 6 to 14 years. And it is actually a significant step for universal access to education and also educational inclusivity of people. And after that, the decriminalization of homosexuality. Now, the Supreme Court in 2018 through Navtej Singh Johar judgment. Okay, so please remember all those judgments because those judgments are very important. Now, in 2018, through Navtej Singh Johar versus Union of India case, the Supreme Court has decriminalized homosexuality or homosexual relationships, and it is one of the most exemplary decision taken by the Supreme Court in promoting human rights or making judgments or constitution in line with the evolving human rights standards and promoting inclusive society without any discrimination. So after that, the Supreme Court has also given a judgment that is right against sexual harassment. This is with respect to Vishaka guidelines. Now we all know about the Vishaka guidelines given by the Supreme Court in Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan 1997 case. So after the Vishaka judgments, the Parliament has passed the Prevention of Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace in 2013. So now it has prevented the sexual violence of women at the workplace. Now expanding horizons of right to life and personal liberty. So here different judgments of the Supreme Court are given. Okay, so those judgments have been showing the importance that how the horizons of right to life and personal liberty have been further widened. Firstly, the right to clean environment. The right to clean environment was made the fundamental right by the Supreme Court in MC Mehta versus Union of India case in 1988. Okay, so just remember this. So thereby making environment as an integral part of right to life and also promoting sustainable development. Secondly, right to livelihood. So, for right to livelihood is also part of the right to life under Article 21, but in Olga Tellis versus Bombay Municipal Corporation, 1985. So, in this particular case, the Supreme Court held that the right to livelihood was actually encompassed under the right to life and it ensures the individual dignity. Okay, so right to live with the dignity. So after that, right to information. Now, right to information is also part of the Article 21 and RTI Act, Right to Information Act 2005 facilitates, you know, access to information for every citizen of India. Now, whenever right to information has been made a fundamental right, so it empowers citizens with information, right, and it facilitates more inclusive and the democratic society, and they can also hold the administrators accountable for their decisions and their actions. Now, after that, the right to die with dignity. This is also a very famous and very important case. The case is Aruna Ramachandra Shanbag versus Union of India 2011. So, in this particular case, the Supreme Court has recognized right to die with dignity, permitting passive euthanasia. The Supreme Court has permitted passive euthanasia in this Ramchandra Shanbag versus Union of India case. So, therefore, it has made a significant evolution in the understanding of right to life. So, please remember all these judgments because they are very important for the exam. Now, after that, the right to internet has also been made part of Article 21. This was the judgment of Anuradha Basin versus Union of India case 2019. So in this Anuradha Basin versus Union of India case, the Supreme Court has recognized right to access the internet as a fundamental right under Article 21 of the Constitution. So this is in line with the contemporary realities, how internet has become a part of everyone's life. So therefore, right to access internet is also interpreted in the light of Article 21. Now, in the conclusion, what you have to write is the overall significance of Article 21 and the Indian Constitution in providing such a comprehensive framework, such a holistic framework for protecting the individual rights of in India. Now, Constitution of India has manifest as a dynamic, living document. It is often regarded as a dynamic and living document, and it is amenable to the requisite changes. So, as per the evolving society. So, this is the term we have been discussing. So, how Indian Constitution is dynamic, and how it is a living document, and how it can be amendable. And in fact, the judicial interpretations have also played a very crucial role in safeguarding individuals' right to life and personal liberty under Article 21. So those judgments we have discussed. So all these factors have been securing the dignified life of every citizen in a progressive society like India. So this is how you need to conclude the answer. So even though you are not required to write such a lengthy conclusion, make sure that the conclusion is brief and concise. So you just emphasize on the crucial aspect of Indian Constitution and also the Article 21, that is the safeguarding right to life and personal liberty of people. Now this is all about this question. So the next question is with respect to the gender justice. So how Indian Constitution has provided various provisions which ensure gender justice. So this is the question. Now gender justice, gender equality, gender inequality are also very important topics for UPSC. Now Indian Constitution has in fact provided various provisions for ensuring gender justice. Firstly, you need to define what is gender justice in the introduction itself. So gender justice actually entails safeguarding and advancing the rights without any bias. Okay, so based on the gender, there should not be any bias, and it involves safeguarding and advancing the rights of people. So Indian Constitution, through its diverse provisions, so those diverse provisions we will be discussing in the later part of this lecture. But Indian Constitution, through its diverse provisions, it strives to transform the gender justice from mere theoretical notion into a practical and tangible experience for every citizen. First, you have to define what is gender justice, and after defining gender justice, you just have to link the introduction with the question. So, in that way, you can write a very brief and precise introduction. So, after writing such a precise introduction, write a side heading. So, the side heading is constitutional provisions which envision the gender justice. So, we all know that there are various constitutional provisions which ensures gender justice. So firstly, you can talk about the preamble. Now, in fact, if you focus on or if you read the preamble of Indian Constitution has talked about justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity of all individuals. Right? So in this context, we talk about justice, and we talk about equality and fraternity. So all factors envision the gender justice, equality among the male and female individual. So Article 14 also, right? So Article 14 talks about equality before law and provides equal protection of laws. So every law provides equal protection of all citizens, irrespective of gender, irrespective of race, place of birth, etc. Now, Article 14 also envisions the gender justice. Article 15, subclass 1, it talks about prohibition of discrimination against any citizen based on these grounds: religion, race, caste, sex, and also place of birth. Now we also have Article 13, Article 15, Clause 3. So this has provided for affirmative action for women. So what is affirmative action for women? In India, we have recognized women as a vulnerable category. Since women has recognized as a vulnerable category, in order to provide a level playing field for them, we have provided reservations for women. So therefore, such an affirmative action for women, for example, we have reserved 33% of seats for women in the local institutions through 74th and 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment. And we also have provided certain reservations. State governments have provided reservations for women in employment. Right after that, Article 16 also. Now, Article 16 talks about the equal opportunities in public employment, and it also prohibits discrimination on the grounds of sex in matters of public employment. Okay, so on the basis of gender, it on the basis of gender, there should not be any discrimination. There should not be any discrimination against women. So there should be equal opportunities for both male and female when it comes to the public employment. So this Article 16 particularly talks about this provision. Now after that, there are certain directive principles also. Now directive principles have also provided for gender justice, and fundamental rights are also provided for gender justice. So if you look at Article 39A, so this is all about equal means to an adequate livelihood. Okay, so the state should take adequate steps that ensure equal right to adequate livelihood for both male and female, or both men and women, without any discrimination. So you can also mention an example of self-helping group, and apart from self-help group, you can also talk about the Stand Up India program, where it has been promoting women entrepreneurship. Now, after that, you can also write Article 39D. Article 39D instructs the state to ensure that both men and women are paid equally. So, equal payment for equal work, irrespective of gender, both male and female. And in order to give effect to that particular provision, well, we all know that directive principles of state policy are non-justiciable in nature. Since they are non-justiciable in nature, in order to give effect to this particular provision, the Parliament has passed Equal Remuneration Act in the year 1976. Now, after that, we also have Article 42. Now, the Article 42 has provided for the ensuring fair and humane working conditions and maternity relief for both male and female. And in order to give the effect to the Article 42, the Parliament has passed the Maternity Benefit Act 2017. So, according to the Maternity Benefit Act 2017, the government will provide 26. Okay, so every company will provide 26 weeks of paid maternity leave. Okay, so fundamental duties were also have certain provisions which ensure gender justice. So what are they? So Article 51A, this talks about fundamental duties, and the fundamental duties particularly talks about renouncing the derogatory practices against women and strive for the creation of just and safe society for women. For example, there was a case, Tamil Nadu versus Suhas Katti. So in this case, dissemination of online obscene messages was criminalized. Now there should be no dissemination of online obscene messages. So that was criminalized by the Supreme Court in Tamil Nadu versus Suhas Katti case. Now after that, we also have certain judgments of the Supreme Court. So those judgments provide for the gender justice and empowerment of the woman and reduce discrimination of women. So first and foremost is Indira Sahni versus Union of India case 1992. So this is also a very important case. In this case, the Supreme Court has imposed 50% ceiling on reservation. However, this case is not particularly related to the gender justice or women related issues. However, it has dealt with the reservation of seats for women in local bodies. In fact, this particular judgment has recognized the gender representation in decision making at the local bodies. And it has also voiced for increased political participation of the women at the local level. Now, after that, we also have Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan Judgment 1997. Now, this is also called as Vishaka Guidelines. So, those Vishaka Guidelines will prevent the sexual harassment of women at workplace. So, taking inspiration from this particular judgment of the Supreme Court, the center has also formulated a Prevention of Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act 2013. Okay, so this is called as Prevention of Sexual Harassment of Women at the Workplace. Sorry, in the 2023. Okay, so that was not quota. Um, Now, after that, through the Vishaka guideline, Supreme Court has recognized the fundamental right of women to work with the dignity, and Supreme Court has also raised its voice against the gender-based harassment. So, how this gender-based harassment is actually violating women's right under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. Now, after that, in 2012, there was also a Nirbhaya case. In Nirbhaya case also, the Supreme Court has highlighted the urgency of addressing the violence against women. Okay, so there's a huge, violence, the domestic violence against women has been rapidly increasing. So therefore, Supreme Court in this case has recognized the need for addressing such a violence against women. So, in fact, in the Shainara Bano versus Union of India case 2017, so this particular case, Supreme Court has challenged in this case the practice of triple talaq, instant triple talaq, was challenged. That was this instant triple talaq was practiced among the Muslim communities, and the Shaira Bano versus Union of India case, triple talaq was challenged. In fact, in this case, the Supreme Court has declared that instant triple talaq was unconstitutional. Right? So, therefore, protecting the rights of women from arbitrary religious practices. And we all have the idea of Shabarimala temple case also. So, in the Shabarimala temple case, the Supreme Court has declared that the denial of entry of women into the Shabarimala temple is unconstitutional, is against Article 17 of the Constitution. So, this is about prohibition of discrimination. Okay, so therefore, this judgment has emphasized on the importance of gender equality and dignity in the religious practices. Now, after that, we also have the other judgment. So, the judgment is with respect to Joseph Shine versus Union of India case. So, in this particular case, the Supreme Court has declared Section 497. Section 497, that is adultery, the practice of adultery. The Supreme Court has declared that it has decriminalized adultery because the adultery practice has been treating women as the property of the husband. Now it has been violating the rights of women under Article 21 of the Constitution. So these are some of the progressive judgments where the Supreme Court has come forward to ensure or to protect the rights of women by ensuring gender justice. So we have discussed the Supreme Court, gender justice. We have discussed about Supreme Court judgments, constitutional provisions which have been providing for gender justice. Now, in the conclusion, you have to stress on the importance of further enhancing the provisions for gender justice or enforcement of the provisions of gender justice, so that an equal and egalitarian society can be created where women can realize their true potential. So this is how you need to conclude this answer. Okay. So that's all for today. And in the next session, we will discuss the remaining questions. Thank you.